Hello everyone, I'm Gandair of the gaming clan, Vato clan, and oh man, I need to get it together. I decided to try and learn how to play LeBlanc way back in December when my friend got me a Mistletoe LeBlanc for Christmas, and I'm just not very good at LeBlanc, man. I must be doing something wrong. Well, I went to LoLPro.com to see maybe if I could find out what I'm doing wrong. Maybe if I could change up my play a little bit, learn a little bit, and maybe actually get a win with LeBlanc for once. I've probably played like 25 games as LeBlanc since I got her. Never won a single one. Had 10 losses in a row. It was awful. So I went to LoLPro.com, went to the Pro Guide section, maybe see if I can find some help. And I went and I found this guide, this LeBlanc guide for Dominion LeBlanc, written by Generic, a top-level Dominion competitor. And I saw these runes and masteries. I said, oh, hey, those look kind of correct. Summoner spells. Hey, I do that too. The build, the abilities. Yeah, all this stuff makes sense. This is what I've been doing. But then I read through the rest of the guide. I read through the items, the abilities, the runes and masteries, how they affect LeBlanc's play. I read through the strategy and tactics. That's the most important part of this guide that I read through. I read through the strategy and tactics section, and it's done a lot for me. You go to this main page, I clicked through, I read down, I clicked next, I read through, I clicked next, I clicked next, read through all the tabs, and I said, okay, I'm going to give LeBlanc another try, and guess what? Generic's LeBlanc guide did some good things for me. I got my first ever victory as LeBlanc after reading this guide and playing a game. So, guys, I want to say LoLPro.com, great website. It can really help you out. I highly recommend it. Check out Generic's LeBlanc guide. Maybe you guys can get your first win, too. That's where I got mine. Alright, we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging out with us today. We're going to go into the next game, it looks like. Letting the teams know that they can kick over to Champion Select whenever they feel like it.
This is going to be Game 2, and Clueless did take Game 1, so let's see if they can follow it up with another win here. I'm not sure if we're going to see any specific bans that really differ from last time. We might... I'm not sure. We might see something like Maokai ban, because he was doing really well for Clueless in the last game.
It's possible we will see that, but there are some other bans that usually take a little bit more priority. Actually, if you guys are interested in seeing what some of the common bans are, I can show those on the screen after just a moment. I want to say a big thank you to LoLPro, Curse, Reign of Gaming, and Leaguepedia for helping put this show together, especially LoLPro. LoLPro with their Dominion guides now, lolpro.com/guides, if you want to check that out. And if you guys want to know a little bit more about the bans, I want to say thank you to Leaguepedia for existing, because that's where I got these pictures from. If you guys want to know a little bit about some of the top bans, these are 6 of the top ones out of like 10. I couldn't fit all 10 on the screen, unfortunately, but they'll give you an idea about some of the more common ones that we have. But some of the ones that are not shown on the screen is Zyra does eat a fair amount of bans as well, and I was not able to get her on there. And once in a while, we will also see Nidalee banned as well. No, the font is actually Playtime with Hot Toddies. It's just it's a very fun-looking font. It is definitely not Comic Sans. Not sure if it's better or worse, but hey, there you go. So it looks like we are, yes, half-hearted. You can start the game.
I'm a Times New Roman person myself. I always like the classic...
Yeah.
I don't know. Something about Times New Roman is just...
I like Times New Roman way better than Arial. Or is it Arial? I don't know how quite exactly to pronounce that.
I always thought it was Arial.
Arial?
Just, like that. Although, some of the newer word programs have been starting to use Calibri, which I think is actually worse than Arial in my opinion, but we can... I just like the weird... I don't know what it is, but the tips of the letters are sort of pointed or something in Times New Roman. I always like that kind of font.
And at the Champions Select screen, Vi being one of the first bans. Now, Vi is interesting because typically we don't see that character banned. We do see her picked occasionally, but I'm sure they have some reason for spending a ban on her. She has a powerful armor reduction, and she has a suppress as well with her ultimate with Assault and Battery. But
she also has a dash on, I think it's Vault Breaker. I don't know her ability names too well, but she does have a short dash on that part, but she doesn't really have range basically at all. She's not going to be able to delay people from stopping those caps, and she's more of a hard initiator, so that's one of the reasons why I might see her banned, because you don't want to be hard initiated on when it's a bad engagement for you, but at the same time, it's still a pretty weird one to see.
Yeah, it's definitely not a normal ban, but I'm assuming it's going to be a counter ban of some form, because late game Vi does get pretty scary. Seeing Kha'Zix banned as well, and Kha'Zix, he does so much damage that he forces someone out of the fight or outright kills them, so you do have to be very careful when he's around. Plus, because of active camouflage, if he evolves active camouflage, then he gets all of those stealth procs in the jungle, and can really play a lot of games moving around between different bushes and things like that, and just be very difficult to catch. Plus, Evolve Leap lets him jump over walls that other champions can't.
So far, I'm not seeing a Kha'Zix ban. It's probably either going to be last banned over here. There's the purple. Oh, they're actually leaving
I wonder
Kha'Zix out.
if Sifu can get it. Nope, they wouldn't let him.
Yeah, I really wouldn't expect anyone to let Kha'Zix out of their hands if it goes through the ban phase. And between Lulu and Kha'Zix, I think I would actually rather to see Kha'Zix off the board. Kha'Zix has sort of that same effect as Kha'Zix, as you said. He can force someone out of the fight pretty easily. He's got really great mobility on his Rift Walk, and where Kha'Zix, he has to get a reset in order to jump all over the place. Kha'Zix just has to wait a couple seconds and he can disengage from the fight. He can engage again. He can reposition himself. There's so much that he can do in order to help those fights out that I think he's a little bit more worth a ban than Lulu, in my opinion. But let's see what Cheese Enema can do about this, because the sides have switched and they are now purple teams. So see how the rest of their picks work out. I do like Wukong, however. Very strong duelist as well as really great initiate.
And look at the rest of the bands. The rest of the bands are pretty typical. Just to quickly speak over them for anyone who's in another window and not watching, which it should be. Brand, Lulu, Jayce, Nidalee. Brand is probably a counter ban against Half-Hearted. He is one of the best Brand players. He's the best Brand player in Dominion currently. And Lulu, that's definitely banned against Zamike, because you want to make sure you keep that away from him. You can let other people get it, but don't let Zamike get it. Zamike, aka Mad Supportal, playing for Team Clueless. We're seeing Zyra and Sejuani locked in. And post-rework Sejuani, she's gotten a lot of attention, a lot of gameplay, and we've started seeing her more and more in Dominion competition. She's a pretty solid tank. And we have Zyra as well. Zyra, who has a lot of AoE ability, a lot of crowd control.
Yeah, there's going to be a really large amount of hard initiate over there for Team Clueless, especially with Sejuani, because if you land a really good ultimate, you can stun, 4 people on the enemy team at the same time, and it's really huge. It can easily turn around a fight. And when you have people like Kha'Zix, locking someone down against Kha'Zix is really, really good to do, because basically he's going to be able to dive into the back line, get his burst down, and the 2 seconds where his Rift Walk is down, the enemy team won't really be able to do too much about it, because they'll be stunned for half of that duration. So that's something that's going to help them out on top of that. And if you follow up with Stranglethorns from Zyra, then that's just more CC and more CC on top of that. But let's go ahead and take a look back to Cheese Enema and see what they're picking.
Looks like BB Pop is going to pick up Sivir again. I'm very excited about that. Sivir is one of my favorite champions, even though I think in all game modes, some people would argue that she's been a little lackluster, but judging by the performance here on the Crystal Scar, she is definitely a very solid pick, especially in the hands of BB Pop. A couple of good flash plays, very good use of the boomerang for zoning, and it's a very powerful zoning tool because it reaches across a point, so you cannot safely capture against a Sivir if she's on the opposite side of a tower. She can just throw it across. So she can be really low on health and still hang out and delay on the point.
Ooh, we have a Trundle rounding out the picks, and Trundle in Summoner's Rift and Dominion in general is one of the best duelists in the entire game. He can steal your AD, he can steal your tankiness, use that against you, and he also has some really good chasing power where his Rabid Bite slows you, his Pillar slows you, and he can speed himself up as well. So you can't really escape too much from a Trundle if he's going to try to out-duel you to begin with, and I don't know if Aatrox can even beat Trundle in a 1v1, because Aatrox is known as an extremely good duelist at this point, and obviously we don't really see him on Dominion too much, but I was just talking about
using mechanic is very unfortunate for him here.
Yeah, that's true. So let's go ahead and take a look at the purple team, see what they picked. Swain and Maokai. So Maokai was used in the last game as well, but let's take a look at the Swain a little bit. So if he uses his ultimate correctly, if he can basically keep that down the entire time and get a lot of damage, stay in the middle of the fight, and do all of that, then he's going to be very strong. He can tank a lot of damage through that. He can heal himself. He does a lot of damage himself when that happens. And on top of that, there's really isn't too much else to say about that. He's got just a great kit. He also has an immobility on Never Move, and that's also going to be very strong for him as well.
Okay, if I can for a moment, I want to talk about Kassadin. Kassadin has been one of the highest priority bans in Dominion history. Unfortunately, he's also one of my favorite champions to play, which has always made me a little bit sad because I love champions with Blink, and they're powerful on this map. Kassadin, who can Rift Walk to a theoretical infinite amount, just depending on his mana and CDR, means he's extremely powerful at chasing and engaging. Recently, there were changes made to Kassadin that people feel make him a little bit less powerful in Dominion. They have increased the cooldown on Rift Walk. They have also decreased its range. There's a couple of things that you can no longer jump over with Kassadin that you could before. One of them includes the Nexus Pit at the start of the game. Another thing is, while they increased the cooldown on Kassadin's Rift Walk, they did not adjust the buff duration from the Rift Walk buff to account for the changed cooldown, which means it is very difficult for him to stack up Rift Walk charges early on until he gets his later ranks in Rift Walk, or he gets a significant amount of cooldown reduction. So he is not going to be able to Rift Walk bomb the second that he gets 6 anymore. That's something that doesn't happen because of the changes to him. And at first, my reaction was, well, this is awful. Turns out it's great. Them not prorating that means that the insane burst that Kassadin used to have, he could just build a lot of mana, stack up Rift Walk's base damage, jump onto a point, combo someone into oblivion, and then move away. And he either killed them or brought them so close to dead that they had to retreat. And then Kassadin would leave and go to harass somewhere else on the map. Now, that is something that doesn't quite happen as regularly because it's more difficult to execute. So what happened here was, Sifu Calvin over on Cheese Enema's team is a very good Kassadin player. He plays a whole bunch of Kassadin. He's a big fan of that champion. And if you notice, that was the team that hung out on the last ban, contemplating whether or not to ban him. And they opted to not ban Kassadin, hoping that they could pick him up. Now, Clueless is a team that has played against Cheese Enema a few times. Their record, I believe they're even against each other currently. I think they're tied up at like 4-4 games, 3-3 matches, or something like that. And so they're pretty even. They're both on even footing. They don't want them to have the advantage of having Kassadin in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. By leaving it open, Sifu forces the enemy team to have to pick up Kassadin. Otherwise, they're going to give that to Sifu, and they really do not want that. Now, Half-Hearted does play some Kassadin, but I don't believe he plays it at the level of skill that Sifu does. So you have someone whose Kassadin is not quite as good as the other, being forced into a position where they have to take it. Otherwise, the better player is going to get a hold of that champion and be a terror with it. It's a very interesting pick and ban strategy here.
Yeah, that's a good point. And one thing I actually didn't see until the 3-minute delay, but I think Half-Hearted switched it at the last second, was that there was no Ignite on Clueless, which they picked it up at the last second, which is really good, because against a Swain, you always want to carry an Ignite. Otherwise, he's going to become extremely powerful, way too powerful, and it's going to be really hard to stop his amount of spell vamp he gets from his ultimate. He's going to be healing all the time unless you get that Ignite off. And I'm not too familiar with Dominion items. Is Morellonomicon still available on Dominion?
Morello's, yeah. We could get
Yes.
that here, but we usually don't get it opting instead for Blackfire Torch, which also builds out of Codex, or we go for Athene's for CDR instead.
Does it give the Grievous Wounds, though?
If I remember
Blackfire
correctly,
Torch?
yes. Oh, Blackfire Torch? No, Blackfire Torch does not.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing I was worried about because, they did take Ignite, so that's going to help them.
No,
If they didn't take
Morello's
Ignite,
on Zyra is something that we could see.
Oh,
But
yeah,
I
that's
don't know
possible.
how his runes and masteries are, if that would end up being wasted CDR or not.
So yeah, we're going to have to see how well they can play that and make sure that Swain doesn't get to the point where he is extremely powerful and ruins every team fight. So hopefully they're going to put some early pressure on him, make sure that he doesn't get some of those kills, and keeps the map back in their favor. So let's take a look at skins for a second. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times I like to look at skins. Templejack's Tyrant Swain, Judgment Kale versus Wildfire Zyra, and Traditional Sejuani. So not really too much all around the map. I don't know if I count Traditional Sejuani as a skin. It's even though they completely changed up her model, that still seems kind of weird. And Wolfer, it looks like he's already preparing to go to the bot. I have to say I expected that because Trundle, they might just be switching around at the moment, but Trundle, like I said before, amazing duelist. It's hard to outlane him, it's hard to outduel him. So I want to see him going into the bot, but he might actually go to the top lane for the utility he has. Looks like he didn't actually take Pillar first, so yeah, that says to me that he's probably actually going to go into the bot because that's one of his biggest teamfight abilities. And if you go towards top and you don't have Pillar, then that's not going to work out for you too well.
Trundle has extremely powerful sustain as well. In the bottom lane, his wave clear suffers until he can get a Tiamat and his Ravenous Hydra. But once that happens, he does have that extra attack damage nuke that he can use from the Hydra, and it gives him even more sustain than he had before. It's very difficult to move a Trundle off of a point. Usually you kill around him and then just find some reason to chase him away after that. It's very difficult to kill him late game. However, Jax is a character who also very late game has a very powerful amount of sustain from items. It can do a lot of damage, and Jax may actually be able to defeat Trundle in that situation, but we will have to see how that plays out as the game goes on. Both teams moving up towards the upper part of the map. Clairvoyance used by Clueless's team to let them see the marching order of Cheese Enema.
And there we go. We're going to have a little bit of a poke top. I'm not sure who's going to win this yet. I think I might say that the red team has a little bit more in terms of their early power, considering that they're all level 4 and nobody's hit their ultimates yet. So I'm going to see an initiation by Sifu Calvin. There goes Lurch with his Reckoning, and unfortunately Half-Hearted is down extremely low, will be caught by the Never Move, and it looks like Kraug is going to try to kill him, almost taken down by the Dot, but it looks like Wukong will die as well, and Commander Peoples goes back and kills Chavez Obama, so it looks like they're going to be edging out the fight just a little bit, and Lurch goes back in for it. He's not going to be able to pick up the kill, however, and Ignites popped extremely quickly. They don't want to give up this top, and it looks like Commander Peoples is the only one with a decent amount of health still up there. Sifu Calvin has gone back, and so is Chavez Obama. They're actually going to be able to take this top, and Mad Sapporo taking the health relic, but it's not going to save him. So there's 4 of them up in the top lane, and they're actually going to be able to take the windmill.
Very good sapling toss that interrupted Zyra from being able to go back. And if you saw there, while Zyra was dead, she still has her passive that she can use, which interrupted the cap for a moment, forced them to stop for a few seconds before returning to finish the capture. And that's one of the cool things about Zyra's kit, is that at the end of the fight, you could still wait out the timer on her passive and then fire it off and really drag out the amount of time that you can keep someone from capturing a point. Oh, BB Pop extended Twisted Advance on to BB Pop. BB Pop being defeated. Very lucky for Chavez Obama. That's a pretty uncommon thing to have occur, that someone moves while the Twisted Advance was being used, and it continues to seek them all the way to their final destination, even if it is a state away.
And Commander Peoples actually already going in for a gank towards the bot lane. They're actually going to be able to take this tower as well. The Boneyard is falling into the hands of the blue team. They are clueless at this point, so that's going to give them a little bit of an advantage, but let's see if a sapling toss is going to be able to stop them. There goes the Never Move. Wilfer taken down extremely low. He doesn't have his ultimate either. He's going to almost die to that Ignite, and dot combo, but it looks like Kraug is tanking the tower a little bit. He's not going to be able to kill Commander People, but at the same time, they're taking this tower back. Unfortunately, that drew 2 of them bot as well, so at the moment, Clueless is going to have a little bit more pushing power towards the top lane. They're already taking this. Sifu Calvin going around from behind, seeing if there's anything he can do. Pops his ultimate, half-hearted, forced to Rift Walk out of there. He's on extremely low health. There goes the Strangle Thorns. Not enough to kill anyone, however, as Sifu Calvin goes back in for it with Lurch's ultimate on him, but he's going to have to
oh dear, the
retreat
force
from
push
that fight
didn't
as well.
connect. Half-Hearted taking the chance at Rift Walking over to go to Force Push. Sifu Calvin did not connect with the Force Push, unfortunately. He should get it charged up again pretty quick. Yes, does have it available again already. And Sifu, taking some damage, backs away, so does not walk into the Boomerang Blade from BB Pop. Swain coming in from the back. Good snare on Supportal. Supportal takes some damage from the Sapling. Almost gets killed. Twisted advance onto Peoples. Half-Hearted joins the fight from above, but not able to secure a kill quite yet. Both teams getting very low on health, and She's Enema looks like they are going to decide to back away, get in the fog of war, and regroup.
And it looks like in the bot lane, Wilfer is still doing really well against Jax, and that's another thing that I was talking about earlier, is just it's hard to out 1v1 Trundle. It's really, that's just the brunt of it. He's going to steal a lot of Brown Bruiser's AD, and, you know, at this point, I want to see him build a little bit more towards AP, because Jax scales really well off of both AD and AP. You can build him hybrid, and it works really well. And at this point, I think he wants more AP, because if he builds more AD, then Trundle's still just going to be able to steal it off of him. And that, unfortunately, is not going to work too well for him. But they're going for another fight, and it looks like Sifu Calvin is down in the bot lane as well, trying to do something, but a pillar's going to keep him out of the fight just for a little bit, and they're not going to be able to do anything here. But the focus is down here, as the objectives are down here as well. Chavez Obama almost getting caught out right there, popping his ultimate, getting caught by the roots, and it looks like he's going to be able to get the kill. Half-Hearted picking that up, and Brown Bruiser, ooh, he's trapped right now. He's just sort of sitting in that bush. He might go for a recall. Yes, he will, and I don't think anyone is going to bother chasing him at this point.
No? They could close distance, draw out a fight there, but it would just keep resources tangled up in the bottom lane. That seems they're not interested in spending at the moment. Minions at the top point, getting a fair amount of capture, actually a lot of capture in, dragging that almost halfway through its total capture. And Half-Hearted putting some damage on Sifu. Sifu retreating, though. There's the Cyclone out from the decoy with the Invulnerable from Kale.
And it looks like that will be an initiated fight. Stranglethorns props up Sifu Calvin as well as Kraug. He's life-stealing as much as he can, but it looks like Half-Hearted is going to be able to pick up the kill before getting shut down by Kale. And that's going to be another fight that goes in favor of Clueless, and they also have... it doesn't look like they used any revives to get back up at that point, but I think the only person who actually died in that was Half-Hearted, so they don't really need to as well. BB Bop in the top lane, still just clearing the minion waves, making sure that they keep their dominance over this top tower, and they really are doing that really well. 447 to 393. They haven't really lost too much in terms of their health, only about 53 health lost on their Nexus. So far they've almost shut out the Cheese Enema, and Chavez Obama going to poke out Half-Hearted. Half-Hearted trying to stop him from taking that Storm Relic in the middle, and it looks like both teams are just going to give up from that.
Brown Bruiser still in the bottom lane, a little bit harassed from Commander Peoples' Sejuani. Commander Peoples, very good Sejuani player as well, so it's nice to be able to see him on that champion and getting some screen time, some VOD archive time. Wolfer now in the bottom lane, Brown Bruiser having gone back to shop, and Lurch at the top here. Kale's pretty fragile, takes a snare, uses the Divine Intervention, has to scoot up towards the tower to get away from Kassadin.
And they're going back in for the initiation. Commander Peoples going over the wall. It doesn't look like he's choosing to use his ultimate yet. It's down at the moment on cooldown. Sifu Calvin getting taken down extremely low. Half-Hearted is going to take that with a last Force Pulse. And it looks like Kraug is now the one who's taking the brunt of the damage. Unfortunately, forced to leave his ultimate off as he's out of mana. Going for the Health Relic. However, the Force Pulse is going to kill him through it anyway. Chavez Obama taking a lot of damage as well. Half-Hearted looking for a Rift Walk maybe over the wall. But the Force Pulse is actually going to be able to kill it no matter what. And Chavez... the only thing he can do right now is throw in a sapling to try to prevent this, but it looks like Commander People's going to dash over the wall and pick him up for the final kill, and it looks like Cheese Enema, or Clueless, they're going to get back into control of the windmill, once again stopping Cheese Enema from taking that and getting points of their own. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Trundle actually tower diving, taking a little bit too much damage from the tower, and Brown Bruiser is going to be able to pick him up.
Now Jack's able to pick up the kill and defend his tower in the process. A neutral tower is okay. it's good for you, and it's okay if it's on the enemy side, because a neutral tower usually puts it at 2-2, and that means Nexus health is not moving in either direction. It's stopped with the towers at 2-2. Neither team's Nexus health goes down. So a neutral tower is okay, but you don't want to leave it that way for too long, because you do want to have that advantage. You do want to be draining their health. Initiation on Wolfer down in the bottom lane. You have Crushing Blow and counterattack. That armor reduction. Grandmaster's Might. Glacial Prison from Sejuani is going to tell Jax that he's not allowed to defeat Trundle today. Sejuani is watching out for him. Freylord representing in the bottom lane, and Sifu Calvin and Shabazz Obama are going to be forced away from that point.
And Kraug is doing his best to try to lifesteal all of that damage from BB Bop, but it looks like he's actually going to be turned on from Kayle, and there goes the last auto attack, going to be able to take him down. And you were talking earlier about neutralizing points, and that's even more important when the objectives are on the points, because neutralizing a point doesn't actually get you the objective.
Yes.
But in the top lane, Sifu Calvin's going back in for it.
And Commander Peoples exhausted. Looks like Sejuani is going to be the target they want to take down because of the lower health, but they're not able to connect. The Sifu, never mind, found a way to connect with Sejuani because of the dash through the wall, clipping through it a little bit to pick up the kill. And Shabazz Obama being stalked down by BB Pop. Sivir able to pick up the double kill in the top lane and begin turning around the tower.
Brown Bruiser in the bot lane doing a pretty good job of controlling the health relic right there, able to keep himself at as much health as possible when fighting against Trundle, and that's one of the only ways he's going to be able to win this 1v1 against him. Looks like Commander Peoples is here, and so is Half-Hearted. They're going to take him down extremely quickly. The counter-strike, unfortunately, not dodging the abilities from Half-Hearted, and there goes the Rift Walk. He's going to deny the health relic, as well as pick up the kill onto Brown Bruiser.
Health Relic denial is something that you should watch out for in these games. We don't necessarily get a chance to talk about it too much on camera, but there'll be a lot of engagements where someone will walk in front of the Health Relic or take it so that someone else cannot, or take it before recalling on the enemy side and deny it from being able to be used by them. Sifu Calvin extending a little bit away. Divine Intervention from Kayle keeps him alive. Decoys and connects with BB Pop, but BB Pop chases Sifu back away on the opposite side of the fight. Supportal getting low on health, fighting against Shabazz Obama's Maokai, and Half-Hearted's Kassadin with a double kill.
And Half-Hearted doing a really good job. You were talking earlier about keeping it out of the hands of Sifu Calvin, but at the same time, Half-Hearted's showing he's really proficient with Kassadin as well, and might not have been worth it to let that slip through, even if they had that bigger plan in mind. But Brown Bruiser is going in for a little bit more poke, going to have to try to use the pillar to disengage that, and Wolfer, ooh, he's going for a tower dive almost. The relic is going to be able to save him right there, but it looks like Kassadin, Half-Hearted, is coming down. He's going to be able to do a lot of damage. There goes, oh, he's going to try to cut him off. Brown Bruiser going to be able to leap away, however, Half-Hearted not going to put enough damage down to stop him, and in the meantime, the rest of Cheese Enema are heading right for the top lane.
And Kassadin's going to take him a moment to get there, rift walking through the terrain in the bottom part of the map to get up to the top even quicker. Commander Peoples on the point, slowed. Great Glacial Prison really opens it up for Half-Hearted to get in and destroy Swain. Lurch falls there after Zyra and Sivir picking up those kills. Half-Hearted being able to jump in and do a lot of damage, and Sivir picking up that one as well. Support Kassadin getting all of the assists in that engagement.
And that was such an amazing Glacial Prison right there by Sejuani. And not only that, but he caught Swain, he caught Kraug before he used Ravenous Flock, so he couldn't heal through it either.
Yep.
The entire time he was stunned, so he couldn't heal through it, he couldn't do anything, and they just killed him before the stun even wore off. So that is one of the great ways to fight against Swain, and that was just a beautiful turn on Commander Peoples. And timing it correctly as well, not only when the three of them were grouped up together, but when his team was close enough so that they could start to counter-initiate on that as well.
Half-Hearted with a little bit of poke on Swain. Kassadin with a Storm Shield can put out a lot of damage. And Cheese team falling back towards their center relic. At least maybe they want to secure that Storm Shield or just come up from the bottom. We will see. The positioning very important for both teams. Kassadin takes a lot of crowd control to be able to deal with before he can escape, but they do have that, and oh, the damage on Kraug, and from the Boomerang Blade as well. Swain is going to need to play very carefully in this fight with his Ravenous Flock and deliver his damage very, very carefully, otherwise he can very easily be killed. In the bottom lane, Jax has defeated Trundle again, but the engagement at the top happens.
And it looks like there goes the ultimate from Sifu Calvin, knocking everyone up. Bebop is being exhausted right now. There goes the crushing blow as well as the Nimbus Strike follow-up. He's going to be able to try to kill him, as well as Commander Peoples in the backline doing as much damage and disruption as he possibly can before he gets taken out. Possibly just trying to save his team as much as possible, but it looks like Cheese Enema going to be able to take that engagement as well. One thing I noticed was that even though Kraug took a lot of damage, this is Dominions, so there aren't neutral minion camps. They're not going to be fighting in lanes with minions as often as possible, so unless there's a full-on initiation, Kraug isn't going to be able to get the Ravenous Flock heals as he should be able to, and oh wow! Max range plants from Max Portal going to be able to pick up the kill onto Lurch.
Very close to not being able to secure that, and Kraug hanging around at the top. Now that's why the health relics exist in this game mode, because you do not have minions that you can lifesteal up on. There is the occasional small wave, but they die so quickly you can't get the big group of them that you'd want to fully heal. In the bottom lane, Jax defeated Trundle twice in a row, once with a kill, and the second one by weakening Trundle to the point where Trundle knew he could not continue and had to go back to the summoner platform. Eventually, Wolfer was able to secure the point again, but that's helping Cheese Enema recover this Nexus health deficit that they're in. And Commander Peoples doesn't want to be there right now. BB Pop coming in from the back. Peoples taking a lot of unnecessary damage. Had the sweeper, but did not use it.
And unfortunately, yeah, that's going to be a quite an odd decision right there, but they're looking to start to counter-engage. Commander Peoples does have his ultimate up, so he can initiate from long range, dash in, use the Glacial Prison, and be content with that initiation right there, using the sweeper to try to detect in that bush, but it looks like Wolfer is getting caught out a little bit in the top lane, but Chavez Obama is now being turned on as he steals the tankiness from him. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough, as there's not enough people on his own team to help him out with that engagement, and now Bebop is the one who's on the run. He's taken down to about half health before turning on to Sifu Calvin, and they're going to be able to knock them out as well, but Commander Peoples getting caught out himself, and it looks like he might actually go down. The Never Move just barely missing as the speed boost comes in, and it looks like Bebop is now the one being caught out. Oh no, Kraug is going to... Oh, the dash was just barely not enough.
So close.
Flying out.
And Sejuani defeated, unfortunately, even after having the successful dash through the wall. Refinery was taken. They did lose the Boneyard. Cheese Enema lost that point because of Caston. It looks like they may be going for a lane swap, sending Zyra down to the bottom and bringing Trundle up top. Might be what I'm seeing. No, it looks like they're switching back to Trundle bottom, Zyra top. Half-Hearted hanging around that lower section of the map is going to be able to help out a lot in holding onto this tower. Zyra and crew from Clueless are going to be able to siege up on the Refinery very effectively, I think.
So after this minion wave, Half-Hearted should be level 16, so he's going to go ahead and get his full ultimate, which brings its cooldown down even more, so he's going to be able to be content with that and fight a little bit better once that happens. But meanwhile, Sejuani might be caught out right there. Lurch going for the initiation, Chavez Obama using Twisted Advance as well. Sifu Calvin's here, and it looks like that's a dead pig, as they're going to take that kill really quickly with a great bushwhack.
They lose Kraug, unfortunately, in the exchange, so losing a tank on one side, but losing an AP damage dealer on the other. Kraug is back immediately, though, with his revive, using it to get down to this bottom point and bail Brown Bruiser out, because Brown Bruiser is by himself, but even with the Ravenous Flock, he does not have the Swain Sustained he needs in order to tank that fight and enable Brown Bruiser to secure the tower.
And Half-Hearted is chasing on to Chavez. I was going to say, he's probably going to have no problem with that with Rift Walk, as well as Force Pulse finally securing the kill right there. But a Flash Pop from Bebop, as he's going to try to kite around Brown Bruiser, but unfortunately it's not going to be enough, as the jump from Jack's going to be able to take that. He's going for the Health Relic, but it's only going to delay a little bit, as Wolfer is right here.
Oh, so close to escaping, but not quite. However, Jack drawing that fight out meant Wolfer was not able to neutral that tower, and that bought time for the rest of Cheese Enema to go down there and evict him from that point.
Yes, but at the same time, Clueless going to respawn with a couple of caps in the top lane, Commander Peoples and Half-Hearted going for the windmill up there, and they're going to be able to take that point, bringing it once again back to 3-2, and this game looking a little bit more in favor for Clueless than it was last game, but we know anything can happen, you know. If you have the same amount of points, or if you have the same or more amount of points, your Nexus health doesn't go down at all, no matter how many is actually there, so long as you hold that advantage. So if they can find an advantage and keep it throughout the late game, then they can still bring this back to win this game, to win the second game. But it looks like Half-Hearted going to miss a Force Pulse. This is Dominion, so a lot of people are casting spells, and there's not really too much of a slow laning phase, I have to say. So he's going to have Force Pulse up really quickly, but we might see another initiation. But Bebop popping his ultimate to try to get his team out of there, but they're going back in for it.
And Sifu Calvin on the outside of the fight, taking damage from Zyra's plants. There's the Stranglethorn, great airborne on that, but it seems to still not be going in their favor. Half-Heart is defeated by Wukong, and Sifu Calvin, the Divine Intervention for extra insurance, is going to enable him to get away, but Sifu Calvin just does not have the health that he wants in order to try and assault this tower. So even though there was a somewhat messy engagement, Clueless still came out on top by putting Cheese Enema's team in a position where they can't push.
Not only that, but Half-Hearted was keeping 3 members of Cheese Enema busy, and on top of that, he was taking them down extremely low. Everyone had, 200, 300 health by the time Half-Hearted died.
Yep.
So even though he did die there, he put out so much damage, and that allowed Bebop to clean up the fight really easily, and they took the windmill back once again, 73 to 248. It's going to be pretty hard for Cheese Enema to get back into this, but they're looking for the next engagement, using the Relic to try to help them out, but Travis gets caught out.
And the Glacial Prison follow-up from that damage. Chavez Obama not dead. Casted picks him up, and that's really bad for Cheese Enema at this particular time.
And it looks like Commander Peoples is going to try to go back in for it, however, going to be taken down really quickly there by Kale, and the fight continues as Crowd gets knocked up by the Stranglethorns. Bebop is now back into it. The crit is going to be able to take down Swain, and Sifu Calvin is now on the run. Oh, tries to dash back to Bebop, but the auto attack is going to be able to take that down. And this is going to be really, really hard for Cheese Enema. They have to make something happen here, but Sifu Calvin and Chavez Obama, the only ones out on the map right now. They really need to try to take the windmill really quickly. However, Commander Peoples is at full health. He's going to be able to tank that. At the very least, tank it long enough for the rest of his team to follow up there and get back into the fight. So let's see if there's anything they can do about it. Sifu Calvin going to go ahead and try to initiate as Chavez Obama stays back and captures the windmill. They might be able to neutralize it soon. If they get the neutralized, then at the very least, they'll stop getting their health on the Nexus down. But Sifu Calvin going back in for the initiation. There's the ultimate, but no one's there to follow up. Kraug is now just getting into the fight. Half-Hearted going to be able to rift walk out of there as he's going to go back in for it as well. Lurch is taking a little bit of damage in the back line, but at the same time, Kraug is now the focus, but Half-Hearted taking down right there by Swain, and he's going to be able to get a double kill right there. The Never Move not landing on either Bebop or Mad Supportal, but it looks like Chavez going to try to kill Bebop as well. He's not doing enough damage, and the crits are going to be stacking and stacking. Chavez Obama gets taken down. However, they do take the windmill back into their favor, but at this point, it's a 2v2. Kale and Swain versus Sivir and Zyra, but they really need to put some CC down on Swain unless he's going to lifesteal all of that back, and the Stranglethorns is just enough damage to pick it up, but it looks like the invulnerability from Kale going to keep her alive and finish off the fight.
Looks like it is going to be a problem in the bottom lane. Maokai heading straight down there. Wolfer is going to neutral that tower, which is going to stop the clock, which means if they get neutral on top, it's going to put it at 2-1 capture and begin the next health drain all over again. Sifu really does not want to die, but he doesn't have any backup on the way. Swain is still half the map away, doing the best that he can to delay, but is not able to do so for very long. Swain is going to arrive, may arrive just in time to stop it from going full capture, and no, he might not be able to get this. The minions pushing it very, very close. Lurch arriving as well now. Glacial Prison means they can't get to the minions. The minions are going to push it over for the full cap, and that may be what wins Clueless the game.
Amazing Glacial Prisons initiations from Commander Peoples all around. They've been on point this game, initiating great fights, and as you said right there, not only did they catch him out, but their own minions were able to slow push that to victory and cap the tower. On top of that, so 18 left. They really need to have something happen in this bot lane. Is the only place they can really afford to do something at this point, and they're being muscled off the tower by Half-Hearted and Wolfer. They're going to have to try to back out. Chavez Obama taken down extremely low. He's going to be killed in just a couple seconds. Half-Hearted being attacked by Brown Bruiser. However, he's going to be able to secure the last kill, and in the top lane, Sifu Calvin's running into a bit of trouble, and unfortunately 6 points left on the health nexus for Cheese Enema. It looks like it's going to be GG. Lurch not close enough to do anything about this top lane, and even if he did, we have Wolfer in the bot lane neutralizing that tower as well. GG. Clueless takes this 2-0.
And Clueless is going to advance on to the round of 4 with a 2-0 victory over Cheese Enema.
And it looks like we're going to go ahead and transition into commercials real quick. First, a little bit of shout out to the sponsors. We have LoLPro, of course, and check out their site as well. They've just barely gotten some Dominion guys over there. And we also have a sponsor from Leaguepedia, and you can go ahead and round out the rest of the sponsors.
Yeah, we have Curse and Reign of Gaming as well, also helping out. We're going to, as Azaraki said, that we are going to cut to a commercial really quickly as we get the next game set up, and then we will bring that to you as soon as it's ready.